Welcome back to Junker with Junior, folks. We're going to get this throttle body torn apart. We know it's got some massive fuel leaks where it shouldn't have, and coming out the tip of the injector, it's just pouring fuel where it should be just a nice mist coming out of there. So we know that's a terrible situation. It's never going to run right with that much fuel going in this engine. I would assume that the spark plugs are completely shot on this thing because it's not running hot at all. And even with it dumping that much fuel, we should still be able to give it some throttle and get some air in there and try to get it to run better, but it doesn't even really want to do that. So we're going to get the throttle body off here, get it rebuilt, and get started on this project. Even with this throttle body completely disconnected and the little bit of residual fuel that's laying in there from where we were running it, it's dripping fuel as we speak. So that's how bad that injector is. Who knows if it's just completely bad or if it's got a piece of trash hung up in it, but regardless, we know that we're gonna have to replace both these injectors. We're gonna get a new diaphragm kit that goes in here and have fun with all these little torch bit screws that GM used on there. But I think we'll really be headed in the right direction once we do that. Intake manifold, you know, looks pretty good. I don't see anything crazy going on. Typical wiring looms come off of the wires, but all the wires aren't chafed. They look to be in really good shape. So we're going to rebuild this throttle body and see what happens next. So we got all our spark plugs out, and judging by the way these things look, this one right here, it's not terrible. The next two, I kept these in order. This is the driver's side. Those were not firing. The last one was firing. Passenger side, not firing, firing, not firing. So GM's been working on a V8 for several years, but we've got this V4 dialed right in. No way. This thing was running terrible. So definitely the fuel could have been, you know, the main reason that these other spark plugs had fouled out. But we'll never really know. It doesn't matter. They're fouled out, so we have to replace them. We have to rebuild the throttle body. We're going to put some new spark plug wires on it because as I'm pulling those off, some of them just broke. The terminals pulled out. It's really a mess. So we're going to get a basic set of wires. It's not like we're going to break the bank buying that sort of stuff for this vehicle. It's basic stuff. And we're going to throw all those parts in there and crank it up again and see how much better it runs. Surprisingly, the distributor cap and rotor are in great condition. Who knows when somebody replaced it? There's a decent amount of crust around it, so it could have some you know, miles and years on it, but who knows? I don't see any need to replace that. There's zero corrosion, no carbon tracks or anything, so we're going to reuse that. No sense in spending the money if we don't need to. I had to rebuild the throttle body because this injector was just puking fuel, so we could assume that the entire thing is completely bad. They do sell a rebuild kit for it, and it comes with a new fuel pressure regulator as well. But we were going to have a decent amount of money invested in all that stuff, and I realized that I had a complete extra throttle body at the shop. So I was going to bolt it on, but the difference is the TPS sensor. This one has the late model round 3-prong style, and this one has the old GM weather pack on it. So instead of buying all the parts, we took two and made one, unbolted this entire assembly, switched it from one to the other. So this one's been sitting on the shelf for a while. We're going to see if it's good. I have a feeling it is as clean as it is, but who knows what kind of gas has been sitting inside it. We're going to see what happens there, try to save some money. If we have to, we'll still get some injectors for it and rebuild that one. Got the AC Delco Sparkomatics. Some people are going to say, oh, well, you should have ran a different spark plug besides an AC Delco. You should have this, you should have that. Some old timers say, oh, you can't put an Autolite spark plug in a GM. They'll never run right. You got to have AC Delcos. So that's why we got AC Delcos, because we know it's going to run right. But everybody forgets at the end of the day, no matter how much that spark plug costs or what name is stamped on it or printed on it, the spark plug has a pretty simple job: to make a spark. So as long as it's not getting an excessive amount of fuel from a terrible injector and a throttle body, that spark plug is going to be able to do its job. And if it doesn't have an excessive amount of oil on it, we've got some new spark plug wires to go on it. We're going to get those installed. So here's where I'm old school. Spark plugs are going to get gapped. We're going to set them all at about 35 with the trusty old spark plug gapper. Everybody says, oh, well, they come pre-gapped in the box. Well, I don't care, because I don't know what UPS driver or FedEx or parts truck delivery guy or anybody, or the guy working on the assembly line that had a bad day or made these on a Friday or a lunch break. We have no idea what these things are gapped at. So I'm gonna gap them because then I know it's done correctly. You can't assume that this stuff's ready to go out of the box. You have to check it. And I'm old school. We put anti-seize on the threads. It'll never let you down. It doesn't cause a problem. It only makes them easier to remove in the future. The wires that I picked up for this truck are made by B&B. They're not the biggest name company out there, but I just couldn't pass them up. One, they're a great price, and two, it's printed all over them. Right there, folks. Made in USA. We've got to support this country when we can. If there's any parts you guys need for your vehicles, if there's an option of buying a made in USA and it's within your price range, do it. Support this country as much as you can. Let's keep things going that are made here. So we've got our bundle of wires here, and shoot, I didn't mark which was which. Good thing it's not the first small block Chevy that I've worked on. 1-843-6572 is the most important number you can ever remember in your entire life. That is the firing order for a small block Chevrolet. They had that order for many, many years. So we're going to start with number 1 terminal, go around in a clockwise pattern on the distributor cap, and we're going to go through that number order and hook up all these plug wires, organize them, and see if this thing will run. We cranked it up, and this injector appears to be working good, which is the side that was flooding over before. So we know we've got a good injector here, but this one's not firing at all. So it's still trying to run on a 4-cylinder because it is a divided intake manifold. So in theory, this injector dual plane manifold feeds this half of the engine, and this side feeds this half because they crisscross in the intake. So as a quick test, I saw that someone was already into these before and has replaced these pigtails for the injectors. They are nice soldered together connections with heat shrink. I tugged on them, they're not broken, so we've got good connections there. I'm confident in that. But as a quick test, I switched them from one to the other so that we can see if now this one stops working and this one starts working. Then we know we have a wiring issue and not an injector issue. Okay, so we know we have an injector issue. That throttle body that I thought was going to be good that I found in the shop laying around, got one injector that's stuck and or bad, so we are going to have to repair that. But you know, this is just what I was in for. I knew I was in for it, but if we can try to save money by using that old stuff, I was going to do it. So good news is half of it works, so I only need to get one injector now instead of two. So we're saving money all across the board on this thing. We're going to get an injector and fix it and see what happens. All right, the heck with all that buying a new injector thing. Sorry about that bad information that I gave you. I was gonna lose sleep over it tonight if I had to buy another injector, so I went with the old Hammermechanics. And I'm not talking about a BF8, I'm talking about the 3/8 ratchet. I got it running off on the one injector, ran around here before it shut off, started hitting the throttle and just started tapping on that injector. Boom, fuel started coming right out. And I'd have to say that this thing is running pretty sweet, considering we have no clue how long it sat and everything it's got going on. So it's doing quite well so far. So there you have it, folks. Sometimes you don't need the expensive parts or diagnostic tools. You just need a bigger hammer in the form of a 3/8 ratchet. It worked out quite well for me this time. Yeah, it's the dumbest thing that you can do sometimes, but sometimes that's what it takes. About ready to go on a test drive, but silly me, I didn't get any transmission fluid from the store. Truck's a little bit low and I don't want to drive it that way and damage anything, so we're going old school, folks. So a lot of you probably don't know that I am really into antiques. I love them. My house is full of them. Kind of looks like a Cracker Barrel inside my house. I'll have to show you guys someday. But I didn't have any transmission fluid in the shop. Dang it. So had to go inside and get some. Yeah, I had transmission fluid in my house. So for the first one, we got the old GRC highest quality fluid that money could buy. Then we've got the old Valvomatic. Super high quality stuff here, folks. So I enjoy keeping this kind of stuff in the house, but I know that eventually these cans are going to leak, so we might as well go ahead and empty them now that we finally have a use for them, and then just an empty can goes on the shelf. But as far as going old school, you got to have the spout too. We got to jab this thing down in there, poke a hole in the top of those cans, and we got a convenient spout just like the old days used to be at a service station. We're putting it all to use. Just like that. Man, if it was any better, I'd be working in a service station. Let's see how well this device works and how much it leaks, because it was the hot setup back in the day. Oh man, look at that. Oh, she's a leaker. Whoops. Guess it doesn't seal as good as it used to. Just keep stuff from rusting a little bit, that's all. Time for another test drive. Oh dear. Well, another funny thing, power steering actually works when you have plenty of power steering fluid in the pump. It was really low and I didn't realize it, but it's weird because the pump wasn't whining or anything, but she's working good now. It's a one finger steer. See what kind of power it has. Not much. Stumbles like a carburetor. Alright, let's see if we can make the C1500 5.7 do something here. So it survived a little test drive. I can tell you that these tires are completely shot though. The front one's half flat. This one not doing so good. We're not going to drive these things down the road at speed, that's for sure. So there's only one thing left to do to a no good tire. Well, we tried to kill it, but apparently we are running out of gas before we've killed this tire. But that dude is down to the cords. You ain't getting nothing else out of that one. We had to finish it off. Didn't pop it, but hey, you know, it was a weak burnout. Maybe next time we can pop a tire. We definitely still got to get it running a little better to kill some more tires in the future. No sense in blowing it out completely because we still need to move the truck, but proof there is a lot of joy to be had in an old dried out tire that is quite hot and sticky now. Kind of revived it. Look at that pile of debris. It's as good as it gets, folks. Stay tuned. We're going to continue to work on this truck, get it cleaned up, get it running a little better. Obviously we got to have some new tires now, a lot of little things to do on it. But thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it so they can watch some of this crazy, fun, and entertaining stuff that we do, and hopefully you learn something along the way. Thanks for watching Junkie Jr. We will see you next time.